My SIL demanded I give her my unborn baby as a birthday gift, and my MIL supported her insane request. When I said no, she spread lies about me. I, 32F, never thought I'd be writing something like this. It feels surreal even typing it out. My situation involves my husband Xavier, 35M, and his incredibly spoiled sister Sarah, 27F. I met Xavier in college. We were both studying business, though he was a year ahead of me. We hit it off immediately, bonding over our shared love of obscure 80s movies and terrible puns. After dating for 3 years, we got married in a small ceremony. It was perfect, except for one thing: Sarah's behavior. Even back then, Sarah was a handful. She was 19 at the time and threw a fit because she wasn't my maid of honor. Never mind that she'd only met me a handful of times and I had a sister of my own. She sulked throughout the ceremony and managed to spill red wine on my dress at the reception. I should have seen it as a sign of things to come. Xavier and I have been married for 8 years now and have a 4-year-old son, Ethan. We both work full-time jobs. I'm a project manager at a tech firm, and Xavier runs his own small accounting business. We live a comfortable but modest life in a nice suburb. We're not rich by any means, but we're happy. On the other hand, Sarah still lives with her parents in the same massive house she grew up in. She's never held a job, not even a summer gig in high school. Her days are spent shopping, getting various beauty treatments, and partying with her equally vapid friends. Once, Xavier suggested she might want to think about a career, and she laughed in his face, saying, "Why would I work when I can just get daddy to buy me whatever I want?" My in-laws, especially my mother-in-law Diane, 58F, have always coddled Sarah. They pay for everything: her designer clothes, fancy vacations, even her car. Last year, they bought her a brand new BMW for her birthday because her 2-year-old Audi didn't have the right vibe anymore. Meanwhile, they criticized Xavier for wasting money when he upgraded his 10-year-old sedan. My father-in-law Robert, 60M, is mostly absent, always working to fund their lavish lifestyle. He owns a successful chain of car dealerships, which is where all this money comes from. There are rumors he has a mistress, but that's a whole other can of worms. Diane seems to turn a blind eye to it, as long as the credit cards keep working. Growing up, Xavier and Sarah's relationship was strained. As the oldest, Xavier was expected to be responsible and hardworking. He got a part-time job at 16 and worked through college. Sarah, on the other hand, was the baby of the family and could do no wrong. If she wanted something, she got it. If she messed up, it was someone else's fault. This dynamic has continued into adulthood. Now, onto the main issue. Last month, Diane called me out of the blue, asking to meet for lunch. I was surprised because we're not particularly close. Our relationship has always been cordial but distant. She disapproves of my common background, my parents are both teachers, and has made snide comments about how I'm not quite what she imagined for Xavier. Still, for the sake of family peace, I agreed to meet her. We met at an upscale restaurant, Diane's choice, of course. As soon as we sat down, she started talking about Sarah's upcoming 28th birthday. I thought she wanted gift ideas, but boy was I wrong. Diane looked me straight in the eye and said, "We want you to have a baby and give it to Sarah as her birthday present." I nearly choked on my water. I asked her to repeat herself, thinking I must have misheard. But no, she was dead serious. She went on about how Sarah was feeling lonely and unfulfilled, and how a baby would give her life purpose. Apparently, Sarah had been complaining about being single and how all her friends were settling down. Instead of suggesting maybe Sarah should, I don't know, date or something, Diane had concocted this insane plan. I was speechless. When I finally found my voice, I told her absolutely not. I explained how ridiculous and unethical her request was, but she wouldn't listen. She kept talking about how it would only be 9 months of my life, and how I'd barely noticed being pregnant since I'd already done it once. Diane then had the audacity to guilt-trip me, saying I owed it to Sarah because the gifts we gave her for her last birthday were subpar. We'd given her a $300 handbag, which was already stretching our budget. She said I should be honored to help Sarah become a mother. I left the restaurant in shock and disbelief. On the drive home, I couldn't stop thinking about how we'd gotten to this point. Was this really the same family I'd married into? I remembered all the little comments and incidents over the years, the way Diane always praised Sarah's natural beauty while criticizing my appearance, how Robert would brush off Sarah's rudeness as high spirits, how family gatherings always revolved around Sarah's latest whims. When I got home and told Xavier, he thought I was joking at first. When he realized I was serious, he was horrified. He immediately called his mother to set her straight, but she hung up on him. We spent the rest of the evening trying to process what had happened. Xavier was angry and embarrassed, apologizing repeatedly for his family's behavior. For the next week, We were bombarded with calls and texts from both Diane and Sarah. They couldn't understand why we were being so selfish and cruel. Sarah even posted on social media about how we were denying her the joy of motherhood. She didn't mention the whole "give me your baby" thing, of course. Just vague posts about how some people don't understand the pain of being childless. It got to the point where I dreaded checking my phone. Every notification made my stomach churn, wondering if it was another guilt-tripping message or angry voicemail. Xavier tried to reason with them, explaining how inappropriate and hurtful their request was, but they just accused him of being brainwashed by me. The whole situation has stirred up a lot of old resentments. Xavier has started talking about things from his childhood, how Sarah always got the biggest Christmas presents, how his accomplishments were overlooked in favor of Sarah's latest drama. It's like this incident has opened the floodgates, and years of pent-up frustration are pouring out. I'm at my wit's end. I've blocked both of them on my phone and social media, but they keep finding ways to contact us. They've started calling our landline, which we keep for emergencies, and even showed up at Xavier's office once. Xavier is torn between supporting me and trying to placate his family. He knows they're wrong, but years of conditioning make it hard for him to fully stand up to them. I don't know how to make them understand how insane their request is. It's not just about the physical act of having a baby, it's the emotional toll, the legal implications, the impact on our son. Do they really think we could just hand over a baby we've carried and given birth to? Do they not realize how traumatic that would be for everyone involved, including the child? This whole situation has made me question everything. Am I overreacting? Should I have been firmer with Sarah and Diane years ago? How do I protect my family from this madness without completely burning bridges? Any advice would be appreciated. Update 1. Thank you all for your support and advice. Your comments have been a source of strength during this difficult time. A lot has happened since my last post, and unfortunately, things have only gotten worse. After blocking Diane and Sarah, we thought things would calm down. We were wrong. They started showing up at our house unannounced. The first time, I was home alone with Ethan. Sarah barged in, talking about nursery colors and baby names as if we'd agreed to her insane plan. I firmly asked her to leave, but she refused, saying she had a right to be involved in her baby's life. I had to threaten to call the police before she finally left. This incident brought back memories of when Ethan was born. Sarah had shown up at the hospital, uninvited, demanding to be in the delivery room. When we refused, she threw such a tantrum that hospital security had to escort her out. Diane later berated us for excluding Sarah from such an important family moment. The next day, Diane came by when Xavier was home. She tried to reason with him, saying things like, "Don't you want your sister to be happy? And it's just one baby, you can always have more." She even brought up Xavier's childhood, reminding him of all the time Sarah had shared with him, by which she meant the time Sarah was forced to let Xavier play with her toys. Xavier finally lost his temper and told them both to stay away from us. But the worst was yet to come. Last weekend, we attended a family gathering at Xavier's cousin's house. We were hesitant to go, but thought it might be good to have other family members around as buffers. Plus, we didn't want to give Sarah and Diane the satisfaction of thinking they'd driven us away from the family. Big mistake. The gathering was to celebrate Xavier's grandparents' 60th wedding anniversary. It should have been a happy occasion, a chance to honor two people who had built a life together. Instead, it turned into a circus, all because of Sarah. Sarah showed up wearing a fake baby bump. Yes, you read that right. She'd stuffed a pillow under her dress and was pretending to be pregnant. She went around telling everyone that we had agreed to be her surrogates and that she was expecting in 7 months. I was livid. I confronted her in front of everyone, exposing her lie. She burst into tears, claiming I was trying to ruin her happiness. Diane jumped to her defense, calling me a selfish witch for not wanting to share my fertility. The family was divided. Some were shocked by Sarah and Diane's behavior, while others thought we were being too harsh. Xavier's aunt even suggested we should at least consider it because family helps family. It was like we'd stepped into some bizarre alternate reality where their request was even remotely reasonable. Throughout all this, I couldn't help but think about Ethan. He was playing with his cousins, blissfully unaware of the drama unfolding around him. How would all this affect him? What if Sarah's delusions escalated to the point where she tried to take him, thinking he was her baby? We left the gathering early, both of us shaken by the experience. On the drive home, Xavier finally agreed that we needed to take more drastic measures. We've decided to consult a lawyer about a potential restraining order. This whole situation has brought up a lot of issues in our marriage. Xavier feels guilty, like he should have seen this coming or done more to stand up to his family over the years. I'm trying not to blame him, but part of me is angry that his sister's entitlement has been allowed to reach this point. I'm exhausted and stressed. This whole situation is affecting my work. I've been distracted and irritable, missing deadlines and snapping at colleagues. My relationship with Xavier is strained. We're both on edge, jumping at every phone call or knock at the door. Ethan has started asking questions about why Grandma and Aunt Sarah don't visit anymore. I don't know how to explain this madness to a 4-year-old. How do you tell a child that his aunt wants us to give her a baby? That his grandmother thinks that's a reasonable request? We're considering moving to a different city to get away from all this drama. Xavier has clients in several states, so his business could relocate relatively easily. I could probably transfer within my company. But it feels wrong that we should have to uproot our lives because of Sarah's delusions. I keep replaying that lunch with Diane in my head, wondering if there was something I could have said or done differently. Should I have shut it down more firmly? Should I have reached out to Robert immediately? It's easy to second-guess everything in hindsight. Has anyone had experience with family stalking? How do we protect ourselves legally? Any advice would be greatly appreciated. I feel like I'm drowning in a sea of crazy, and I don't know how to find my way back to shore. Update 2. I want to thank everyone for their continued support and advice. Your comments have been a source of strength during this difficult time. Unfortunately, I have more unsettling news to share. After the disastrous family gathering, Xavier and I decided to lay low for a while. We changed our routines, stopped posting on social media, and asked our close friends not to share any information about us with Xavier's family. We hope that by depriving Sarah and Diane of information, they might lose interest or at least have less ammunition. For a while, it seemed to be working. We had a blissful week of silence. No calls, no unexpected visits, no social media drama. We started to relax a little, thinking maybe they'd finally gotten the message. But Sarah found a way to escalate the situation even further. She created a GoFundMe page titled Help Sarah Become a Mom. In the description, she spun a sob story about how she was struggling with infertility, a complete lie, and how her selfish sister-in-law, me, had promised to be her surrogate but then cruelly backed out. She even included photos of herself wearing the fake baby bump, and old photos of Xavier and me with Ethan, implying that we were denying her the same happiness we had. The story quickly spread in our small town, and soon we were getting dirty looks and nasty comments from strangers on the street. It was surreal. People I'd known for years, who'd seen me pregnant with Ethan, were now looking at me like I was some kind of monster. I overheard whispers at the grocery store about how I was denying a woman her right to be a mother. The mom group I'd been part of since Ethan was born suddenly stopped inviting me to playdates. Things came to a head when my boss called me into her office. Someone, I suspect Sarah or Diane, had been calling my workplace repeatedly, telling them I was planning to leave my job to be a surrogate. They were trying to get me fired, I think, or at least cause enough trouble that I'd give in to their demands. My boss was understanding once I explained the situation, but it was humiliating and stressful. I've worked hard to build my career, and the thought of losing it over this insanity was terrifying. Plus, now I had to worry about my professional reputation on top of everything else. We finally got in touch with a lawyer, who advised us to send cease and desist letters to both Sarah and Diane. We also reported a fraudulent GoFundMe page, which was thankfully taken down. But the damage was already done. Screenshots were circulating, and the story had taken on a life of its own. Xavier finally reached his breaking point. He called his father, Robert, and laid out everything that had been happening. Robert, who had been largely absent from this drama, was shocked. He promised to intervene and set things straight. We're cautiously optimistic, but also prepared for more drama. We've installed security cameras around our house and are documenting every interaction. The lawyer is preparing paperwork for a restraining order, just in case. I'm emotionally drained, but also angry. How did a simple no turn into this nightmare? I keep thinking about all the times over the years when we should have set firmer boundaries. The times we let Sarah's bad behavior slide for the sake of family peace. The times we accepted Diane's backhanded compliments and subtle put-downs without comment. Has anyone dealt with family members spreading lies about them publicly? How do you rebuild your reputation after something like this? And how do you explain to a 4-year-old why people are suddenly being mean to his mommy and daddy? Update 3. It's been a whirlwind couple of weeks since my last update, and I'm still processing everything that's happened. But I wanted to share the latest developments with you all. First, the good news: Robert, my father-in-law, finally stepped up. He was furious when he learned the full extent of Sarah and Diane's behavior. He immediately cut off Sarah's allowance and told Diane that if she didn't stop harassing us, he would divorce her. This led to a huge family blowout. Sarah threw a tantrum, accusing Robert of never loving her. She brought up childhood incidents, claiming Robert had always favored Xavier. She even accused him of being emotionally abusive for expecting her to get a job. Diane tried to downplay everything as a misunderstanding, saying Sarah was just going through a hard time and needed support. But Robert stood firm. He even apologized to Xavier and me for not intervening sooner. He admitted that he'd been so focused on providing financially for his family that he'd neglected the emotional side of parenting. It was a surprisingly vulnerable moment from a man I'd always seen as rather stoic. However, this wasn't the end of the drama. Sarah, desperate without her allowance, decided to double down. She went to a local news station with her story of being a wronged potential mother. She painted herself as a victim of infertility, still a lie, who had been promised help by her family, only to be cruelly rejected. Thankfully, the reporter did some fact-checking and declined to run the story, but it was a close call. This latest stunt seemed to be the final straw for Diane. Realizing she might lose her cushy lifestyle if Robert followed through on his divorce threat, she finally admitted that she and Sarah had gone too far. She sent us a lengthy email apologizing for their behavior. While the apology seems sincere, Xavier and I are not ready to forgive and forget just yet. The past few weeks have been a roller coaster of emotions. We've had to have some difficult conversations with Ethan, trying to explain in age-appropriate terms why he hasn't seen his grandma or aunt recently. We've also been dealing with the fallout in our community. While some people have apologized after learning the truth, others are still wary of us. We've decided to take a break from Xavier's family for a while. We're going on a month-long vacation to a place we've always wanted to visit. It'll be good for us to get away from all this stress and focus on our own little family. We're looking forward to making new memories with Ethan, untainted by all this drama. When we return, we plan to start family therapy, not with Sarah and Diane, but just for us. This ordeal has put a strain on our relationship, and we want to make sure we're on the same page moving forward. We also want to make sure we're handling things in the best way possible for Ethan's sake. As for Sarah, last we heard, she's grudgingly started looking for a job. Without her allowance, she's had to face reality for perhaps the first time in her life. Diane is trying to mend fences with Robert. The rest of the family has been supportive of us, with many apologizing for not standing up for us sooner. I'm cautiously optimistic about the future, but also wary. This experience has taught me that you can never truly predict how people will behave. We're keeping the lawyer's number handy, just in case. We're also considering making our temporary move permanent, depending on how things go when we return. Throughout all of this, I've been amazed by Xavier's strength. He's had to confront some hard truths about his family and his upbringing, but he's never wavered in his support for me and Ethan. If anything, this ordeal has brought us closer together as a couple and as parents.